Okay, good morning, ladies, women in business. I would love to welcome you to Women Behind the Business. And this is our series, Inside Women in Business Australia, where we go beyond the logo, the offer, and those polished business stories to actually get to know the woman behind it all. So today I'm joined by the beautiful Joanne Nelson, founder of Mustard Seed Studio. Now, Joanne is a website strategist and designer who helps founder-led businesses create websites that are not only beautiful, but built with strategy behind them. And Joanne's belief is that a website should be more than someone where your business exists online. And I absolutely love that because it should become a real home for your brand and help turn people who are simply looking into clients and customers. It goes beyond that. And Joanne's work journey into website strategy is definitely not a traditional one. So before entrepreneurship, Joanne spent 18 years in science, including research and clinical fertility. She's got a Bachelor of Science, a Master's in Clinical Fertility, and has been both a speaker and a published author within the scientific community, which is absolutely incredible. So well done to you, Joanne. And your entrepreneurial journey began in 2019 with an e-commerce business you built while raising three young children. Kudos to you. Like running a business with kids is fun and stressful and hard at times, all of that. Before you actually moved into freelance marketing and eventually discovering your passion for website strategy and design. And in late 2025, Mustard Seed Studio was born. So, Joanne, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to getting to know and sharing the woman behind the business. So,
Thank
thank you.
you so much. No, thank you so much for having me on board. I know it sounds so much of who this one person is. So it's been great to be invited to actually share my story with the women in business and to understand that you don't have to be just one way and one way only.
That's right. Yeah. And I absolutely love that because business is not supposed to run that. It's not
No.
supposed to be just, blinkers on, straightforward. It's got to be wide. It's got to open. It's got to go in different directions. And, as we grow, we're continually learning things. So everything expands.
Yep, absolutely agree. I mean, business is almost like a personal development journey.
It is.
For the most part, women who are in business, especially women who are mums as well, will
Yeah,
understand this. It is a personal growth development or where you want to take your business to while you're raising a family of your own.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, Joanne, I'm going to just start rolling off with some questions for you so we can get to know you a bit better. So, for someone meeting you for the very first time, who is Joanne beyond Mustard Seed Studio? The website strategy and all the professional titles that you have.
Well, I would always say I'm a mum. If you don't know who I am, you don't know who Master Seat Studio is, then you will look at me as I'm just a regular mum of three who does drop off, pick up after school activities at every sports game, sits and watch her kids intently, and that's who you'll know me for who I am. Obviously, outside of Mustard Seat Studio, I also, as you said, run an e-commerce business. So that e-commerce business is still currently running, and we're in our 6th year now
Wow.
running it. And for those who know the Curator Parcel, you probably are also a mum who's found me and my business, and we've probably connected on a motherhood level as well. So, just beyond a business, I've always built a relationship with the people that I know, and they always come to me as a mum.
Yeah, yeah. And it is. And you know what? Even when we go beyond the mum, we're a woman behind that. And I just want to
Yes.
bring that point up because so many women will go, I'm just a mum, right? And yes, I do all these amazing things, but who are you as a woman? Like what fills you up? What is your passion behind everything you do?
And it's interesting you say that because, obviously I am a woman before I became a mum. But as soon as I had my first child, all I wanted to be was a mum. And
Yeah,
if you could ask me right now, if you didn't have to choose running a business, you just have to choose what you want to be, I would say, I want to be a mum. Not a woman, not a wife, a mum. Because I truly enjoy every bit of my motherhood. And I suppose, one of the things that came back as to why I decided to give up a traditional career is because I realized how much I've missed out on my own children's life. And one of the conversations I tend to have with other mums is that everyone has one childhood. You've been a child, you've had one childhood. But
yeah,
when you become a mother, you also have the same, just one motherhood. Because most people never truly get to embrace and enjoy that until it's too late. And I
that's
think
right.
that's very, very important to realize what it all means for you at the end of the day.
I love that. I love that you've actually challenged me just like so softly, but you are probably the first one that has ever said, no, I just am a mum. Like that's what I wanted to be. So I love that for you, right? And I love that you were honest in saying that because I can see that you are a very loving mother. You know, everything you do is probably for your children, right?
Absolutely. And I think for the most part of us who are women in business, we all started our own business, whether or not it's directly reflected on for our children, but part of it is always to maintain somewhat of a legacy that we could either pass it on to our next generation or we could build something whereby you could be a role model. That's
Yes,
the other thing. A lot of people who start a business who's a mum are building something whether it be for themselves or their children, is always because they want to leave a legacy behind.
that's right. Yeah, and that's so important to share. So I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah, your story starts in such a different place from where you are today. So you spent 18 years working in science, research, and clinical fertility. What did that chapter of life look like for you? Like, and did you ever imagine at the time that you would eventually become an entrepreneur?
Absolutely not. For my whole entire life, I grew up in a very traditional household. You get good grades, you go to college, you go to university, you get your degree, and you do your, whether it be 9 to 5 or something more than that, but that's how life has always been for me. Never have I ever thought that dreams could be bigger than what everyone tells you to do. So when I became, you know, when I graduated in my science degree, all I wanted to do, I had a very focused line of career. I just want to do my part. I'm always fascinated with science, which is why I got into it. And I wanted to make a difference. So I realized through being a researcher for the first part of my career, I could make a difference, but it was a very small fulfillment. So,
Mm,
you talk about the roll-on effect. So I'm seeing that I can make a difference very far away from where I am. But I realized I wanted to make a difference where I can see it, I can feel fulfilled from those things, which is why I ended up being a clinical fertility scientist. When I then joined clinical fertility scientist career, I already had my firstborn. And to be fair, it was really hard to go back full time to work after having your first baby.
yeah.
And that was a new career choice of mine. While I truly, truly love the job. I love the fact that I could be the person to actually play a part in someone else's life where I could make a difference. Not to say, career in research don't do the same, but for me, it's a personal level. It's a
Mhm.
personal connection that I have with my patients. It's a personal level that I could share my motherhood journey. It's a personal level where I realize that I can see what they're going through and be there as a support for them as well. So all those things has taught me a lot of, things to reflect back on where I want to be as a person.
Mm,
And I think my career, my chapter in that has also shown me that I don't really want to do a 9 to 5. I love being able to make a difference. I truly do. Every patient that comes through, I know them by their first name. They're never just a client or a number on record. And so I thought to myself, if I truly want to make a difference, what about my own children? What about my family? And that's when I realized, after doing it for 18 years and having three kids, knowing that I was going to have my last baby, I had to start making a change on what I really want. So those years of experience hasn't gone to waste at all because it's experience to taught me what I want for myself as a personal growth journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so much right in saying that business is a personal growth. And it doesn't matter, what business you're in, it requires a level of growth to,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, just to get to that next level. Like, yeah. So I love that you learn so much and you carry that with you, but you've found that personal touch. And that's what draws people, your energy and your personality bring your clients to you. And nobody is just a number.
No, absolutely. Nobody's a number. Look, I worked for a corporate. So, when you're working in the system, if you could take yourself outside of the system and look inwards, you do realize where you're sitting and where you're standing. So when you run a business, I mean, there's many different sort of business owners. There are business owners who truly just runs a business to pay the bills, to fund their other dreams, perhaps, and perhaps running a business is not a dream for them, but it's
Mm,
a way to fund that dream. Regardless of what sort of business you're running and what sort of founders you are, business teaches you a lot of integrity that you have, a lot of precision in making decisions, into understanding where your business is going. And also at the same time, it teaches you to have empathy, to be able to put yourself not just as a founder, but also as a customer, as a client, because you're most likely running a business who you want to attract, who's possibly an old version of yourself.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
And so, if you are looking at both sides, for the most part, founder-led businesses, which is why I love working with founder-led businesses because I am a founder. So, for me to work with them, I know exactly what they're going through, what they're thinking, what are some of the obstacles perhaps that they've gone through and have no one to be able to unpack that with them, or perhaps they haven't even gone through those. And
Mhm.
to hear someone else's experience, they also do take it into consideration and the importance of knowing and sharing those stories behind the scenes.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you say that. And, in 2019, when you started your entrepreneurial journey with the e-commerce business while raising your three children, what sparked that first business and what made you take that leap?
It's an interesting question, and I always tell that story. So, when I had my children, I have no clue about the different sort of education because
Mm,
I was raised traditionally. I thought it's just a traditional system. My husband was the one that actually investigated into Montessori education system with
yeah.
our firstborn. And because we were first time parents, like anything, you invest yourself into learning more and more. And not just understanding and learning, we also took on upon ourselves with the practical side of understanding what does this journey means for us as our daughter's going through it. What does it mean as parents who's going through it? And what does that mean, on a bigger scheme of things? So, because of that, we've invested ourselves into the whole Montessori approach. We
Wow.
became a Montessori family. And I saw firsthand how important and how much benefits this journey has to allow your children to have this play-based learning,
Mm,
child-led learning, whereby children get a bigger say, not because you're giving them a free rein, but you are guiding them within a guidelines, but you're not telling them that that's what they have to do. And that's where the difference is between a traditional system and a Montessori approach. And it
mm,
was through this that I found, the learning side for my daughter has just, exponentially increased. But also for me as a parent, knowing that it's very different to how I was raised and
yeah.
how much more beneficial this is. I firstly got to have a relationship with my children, a really strong bond that otherwise traditionally you don't have because, you know, I grew up in the 80s where parents say you've got to do something, and that's what you do. You never question otherwise, you never put your opinions out because you're the child. But in the modern days of how we're raising our children are not little people. Well, they are little people, but they're just not children who's
Yes.
just there. You know, everything in our family, the children get a say in it. We all treat each other equally. And that's the mutual respect and love that we have for each other. And I think that's what's come out of this benefit of being a Montessori approach, whereby
Mm.
the children learn to have a say of their own. By all means, it's not easy because, as you can imagine, when you allow a child to have their own personal views, there's always a lot of questions to be asked, a lot of answers that you've got to provide. And there's never an easy just one answer and they'll accept it. But embracing the whole lot, I did see a really good benefit out of it. And when I had my last child in 2018, during my maternity leave, I thought to myself, I wonder if there's more parents that realize there's other approaches to being a parent apart from your standard system.
Mm.
So I love the idea of being able to have resources for my kids that are actually not just toys, that are
Yeah.
beyond that. And so when I started the parenting journey in this regards, that's what gave the rise to start a e-commerce store to share my experience through toys, through the learning journey as to what comes out of it at the end of that journey.
Mm. And, when you think about buying a kid a toy, that's not on the back of your mind. What are they going to
No.
get out of this learning journey? Right. So,
No, and raising children is very, very different in the current world that we're living in. It really truly is. You know, you talk about toys, they are everywhere. We've got overwhelmed selection of them. And it is not always a good thing for our society, especially in, the modern world where everything is just a very short attention span.
yeah.
So if I bring it back to while we didn't have that flexibility as adults now, when we were going through our childhood, it was more a simplistic manner where
Mm.
things on one hand is great, where kids do get that freedom to choose without the overwhelming of products in your face. And so I'm trying to blend the two together to bring back a little bit of that nostalgia of what it means to actually have a relationship with your children while you're playing. And by all means, adults love playing too. I didn't realize I love play until I sit down and actually just be a person with my kid.
Yeah.
And children teach you more things than you ever know. If you only just focus on what they teach you, you'll always walk away with a lesson that you probably already have. It's just that you've forgotten about it.
That's right. Yeah. Like I do the same things and probably not often as I'd like to, but sitting down playing a game, giving your time, like it's actually, a lot of the quality time that you spend playing a game with your children, and you do take things away and you're like, why don't I do this more often? Like we're sitting there, we're laughing, we're having fun. And I think as adults, we actually forget to have fun. And
Yes,
we've got that inner child within us. We are always going to have that. And we've got to light that inner child up and
absolutely. And I
have
think
fun.
sometimes, yeah, for adults who don't have children or who hasn't had children yet, you probably do lose that more unless you have got friends who still have that childlike in them and you realize you're no different to children, you're just a bigger child. But when you've
Yeah.
got kids, that keeps you on the toes and they remind you every single day. And you're absolutely correct because by the end of it, you always go, why don't we do this more often? Why is it
Yeah.
that I can't find time? And that's the other question. We all have the same amount of time. Time
Yeah.
to everyone have got different priorities, really. Is it
Yeah.
more important to follow my washing who's just been sitting there when you've got three kids? Or is it more important to just spend an hour, laugh your hearts out, connect with your people that you love most, and cherish that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's such an important reminder that we forget about so often. So, yeah, it's just brought up. it brings up so much for you, really, when you think, well, we do have the same time, but we're not making time. And we can
No,
make time. We can put something aside. We can put our work hats off or our, the housewife, with all the chores that we have to do. Let's just take half an hour, and just sit down with our kids and play something that they want to play and have
it's
fun doing it.
absolutely, because you know what? At the end of the day, that half an hour is going to be the highlight for years to come. Your kids and yourself will always remember what you did in that half an hour, who said what were you guys doing, how much you were laughing, and that's all it matters at the end of the day, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Like, tomorrow is really not promised, so we've got to make the most of what we're doing before it's too late because we never know what's around that corner.
And I think one of the things that is interesting that you said, because all of us, and I bet you, and I'm sure all your listeners would agree, we all know that. Deep down, we all say it to ourselves every single time when we have a moment to think or a moment to ourselves where we would say, we need to do this more often. Tomorrow is never promised. But yet, when it comes down to it, sometimes it's the knowing and it's the actioning that
Right.
we don't have this bridge in between the two. And I think, for women, we tend to have so overwhelming responsibility, whether or not you've got one child, three child, whether or not you don't have kids, but the load that we all carry is
Mm.
immense. And I think sometimes that stop to think and to actually make that happen is not so easy. And that's a big reminder a lot of us are trying to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right in saying that. We do. It doesn't matter, again, like you said, if we've got kids, if we don't have kids, we as women have an ultimate responsibility, right? And those traditional methods is a woman does the housework, she does the cooking, she does the cleaning, still has to work a job or run a business. Like,
Yep,
and it goes like that. So I think that's just an important, something to share that, we do take on so much, right? And it's why
we
men
do.
can't multitask, right? Yet a woman can be on the phone, she can be typing an email, she can be talking with her kids, she can, it might even be cooking at the same time. Like, but we are a different species, obviously, but
We are absolutely a species of superhero. Every
yes,
mom who's ever built a business before, you must know this. They are cooking while they are emailing or
yes,
doing a client call while they're actually breastfeeding. So we've
yeah.
done it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we forget how strong and powerful we are as women. And it's great to just have that little reminder at times too. So,
Yep, and so when you decide to say I don't feel up to it, it's okay too. It
mm,
really is okay. I think that's the other bit that we don't talk a lot about because we're so capable. You forget that it's also very understandable and acceptance to actually be okay not to be capable for a while.
yeah, exactly. And that's something that I think a lot of women, and I know I've suffered that myself, but I now allow myself not to feel guilty if I want to take a nap before school pickup, right? If I need to, go out and do something for me and just go for a walk or go and have a massage or go to a girlfriend's and you know go out for lunch. It's just sometimes those little bits of self-care that just they just fill you up and they just make you realize like I'm human too.
Yep.
I'm not a robot who can just do everything. We need to rest, we need to look after ourselves, and we need to love ourselves enough to take those little moments.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest part too for us, we actually don't need a lot of those. For
Mm.
us to fill our cups generally is a very small amount compared to how much output we're willing to give as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'd love to know, you moved from freelance work across to e-commerce, service businesses, marketing, email, paid advertising, and websites. When did you start realizing that the website strategy and the design was the part that you really loved? And that where that moment was where you thought, this is what I want to build next?
Actually, I would have to say I'll give my hats up to my husband. He was the one that encouraged me to do this. So, obviously, being an entrepreneur, when I first built my own e-commerce store, I did everything on my own. I've got always a curiosity to learn things. So, starting off with the e-commerce, you need to have a website. Now, you're bootstrapping your own business with three little kids. So I didn't really want to just hand the money over to someone to do something for me when they don't really know what my vision is. So I
Yeah,
spent the first couple of years learning those skills on my own. And of course, I have joined different courses, different mentorship, just so that I can cover all the things that you can't learn online,
yeah,
or there's just too many overwhelming information. So I've learned through the first 2 years of building my own business to do all the things that you need when it comes to running a business, a website, your emails, and your organic, so your social media, as well as your paid ads if you want to get into it. And through doing this, I had a lot of business friends in the same similar kits industry that have asked, do you mind helping me out? And it's always one of those networkings that you do because I love building relationship. I never say no. The way I look at it, if I can do this and I can show you and you can do it on your own, you'll be just as good as I am, really.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I started freelancing some of my services to just small time business owners like I do, helping them out wherever I can. And of course, through that practice of doing clients' project as well as running my own e-commerce, I've learned to really put designs together.
Mm,
And I've learned to pick designs that actually how I see reflective of the brand and the founders. Because whether you like it or not, while you're building your own business, sometimes all you see is within your own vision. To
that's
have
right.
someone else come out from the outside looking in, they can provide you with things that you can't see, where you've got blind spots. So my hubby came to me one day and said, you're really, really good at doing this. And I went, well, I don't really have a design skill. I've never done a design skill. I'm never even good at art.
Yeah,
And he said, well, you're thinking about traditional art, but what you're doing digitally, you're very good at it. And he encouraged me to take on more work like this to see how I can build out that love of it. And to be fair, once I got into it, the rest of it was just, a cement of how much I do love designing digitally. And so
yeah.
I thought to myself, now that I've done a fair few more clients, maybe I should really start opening them up my own website strategy and design studio.
Mm,
And that's how Mustard Seat Studio was born. Um,
wow.
as a matter of fact, my hubby was the one that helped me through putting together why we named the studio Mustard Seed. So I don't know if you know much about the story. So mustard seed is a seed that can grow into a plant from one seed.
Right.
And with that one seed, it grows into a plant, but the plant has many uses. And that's what I look at it. Building an e-commerce brand has taught me that no matter what, you can't shortcut things. You can't just jump from A to C. You've got to go methodically, logically, and whatever business you run, it's all data analysis as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I knew from get-go, being a scientist, you've got to build things robust from the beginning.
Mm.
So you then build brick by brick, layer by layer before you have your full, overall capacity.
You got to build
If you're
those
not going,
foundations.
absolutely. And if you're not going to have that, your foundation is going to fall. And because I had the privilege of, encouragement and support from my hubby, I got to learn how to build strong foundation. And my e-commerce store is a great reflective of that. After 6 years of running it, I still run on it my own. I still do my own paid ads. I still do my own business. I still built the relationship and the networking because the
Mm,
brand is me. I
yes.
might be selling products, but at the end of the day, I'm selling something that I truly believe in. And so, with a lot of the clients that I used to have, I used to say to them, make sure when you're building a business, build a business that you're passionate about, that
Mm,
you truly are passionate. Now, don't take me wrong, building something that you're passionate about without doing a market research on whether or not that service or that product is actually wanted have demand is a different story. I'm talking
Yes.
about building a passionate business that you know that there is demand and you know you can make a difference. Because when you can come from that angle, it doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're selling. At the end of the day, you will have your audience and your clients.
That is 100% correct. And I've learnt that, and I've said that to so many women in business, who have been struggling. Like, I'm not sure if I believe in the products anymore. Okay, so find what it is that you absolutely love and do that. And I've got my 15-year-old son who's in year 10 this year, and choosing the subjects for year 11. He wasn't even sure if he was going to go to year 11 or 12, and that's still debatable. And he wants to be an engineer, and like a mechanical engineer. And it's like, well, I want you to find something that you absolutely love doing, because what I don't want for you is to just work a job that you hate going to every single day, and you spend 30, 40 years doing the same thing. I want you to find something that you absolutely love. And it might take you down a few different roads, but I want you to find that, because then I don't know, I just feel you live such a more fulfilling life when you actually
It
love what you do.
absolutely. I've got a 15-year-old who's in year nine having to choose those subjects, and it's the same conversation we have in my household. And all I always say to my daughter, who is the 15-year-old, she's turning 15 this Thursday, actually. All I say to her is, look, I've grew up traditionally. I still thought that traditional life, because I love my job, and
Mm,
because I love my job, I still thought that that would be the one that would get me to a point where I could retire and then I could really enjoy life. But in the after COVID particularly, you see that real change, the real change in a lot of people understanding what it means to them, because you had to stop your day to day where all those things that distract you from life. You have to
yeah,
stop your life for 2 years, and you've got to really think about what you want in life. Do you really want to work another 40 years in that job, even if you love it, because it doesn't matter what you say. When you're working for someone else, you
mm,
are still working for someone else. It's not something that fulfills your cup.
that's
Time is
right.
something that you can't get back. And so if you're not going to do something you truly love, how are you actually living your life to the fullest?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I have the same conversation with my daughter, and I said to her, it took me 36 years before I really truly realized what it means to live your life. So I'm 42 this year. 36 is when I realized. So it's only been 6 years ago that
Mm,
I've had a real paradigm shift in my mindset, in my thinking, in what life is all about. And I'm trying to pass that on to my three kids and making sure, with the same conversation you're having with your son,
mm,
it doesn't matter what you want to be, as long as something that you want to do, you
mm.
love doing, go for it.
Yeah,
Because things change. Even the fact now you're thinking that in 6 years' time, I want to be this. 6 years is a long time
that's
in
right.
some ways, but in some ways, it's very short. Things
Mm,
change. You know,
yeah,
the traditional jobs that we see now are starting to lose people in it because, AI has taken over a lot of those automated positions,
correct.
which in fact is great. It's great because then it's supposed to give you time back.
Mm,
But but there's a downside to that as well, isn't it? You
that,
must know that. You are a businesswoman. You've heard all the stories that comes with it, and
absolutely.
it's a story that's really hard to unpack, I think.
Yeah. Well, I've had some girlfriends that have lost their job because they've done that. They've added in the automation, the AI automation, and they no longer need to work their job.
Yeah,
So,
and I think there's a lot of skill people.
yeah,
Actually, traditionally, in our age group, I think there is a lot of skill people for the first time have realized that they can be replaced very
yes.
easily
Yeah.
and go, now I'm in mid of my life. What do I do with myself? They've never had to think about that, but now it forces them to think outside of that.
That's right. Yeah. And one of my biggest things, like I started my business 5 years ago, and it got to the point where I was working for a company who expected me to make a certain amount of money with no staff, having my 1-year-old daughter, who I was blessed to be able to take for work to work with me, no staff, no proper setup, and run two stores for, um, security and LED lighting. And it got me because I'm like, you want me to build your dream, but what about my dream?
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the biggest light bulb moments for me was I don't want to be building someone else's dream. So when COVID hit the second time and I was being a retail store, I couldn't be there. I started my business and I'd already made the decision that I was not going back to work for somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think we all have that pivotal moment where a light bulb goes out. Because as I said to you, when I was on maternity leave with my last baby, knowing that that's my last one, I had that thought of starting something, but
Yeah.
I didn't know what at that time. And I thought product-based business would be the easiest for a person with no experience to get into.
Yeah.
And I can say, fortunately for me, when COVID hit, that actually did help boost my business up because everyone was homeschooling. I just
Yes, that's
happened to
right.
be in the right industry for that time. But, for somebody who has got no skills in building a business, no experience, I went from just starting to later on realizing I don't want to work for someone else. We are all having to stay at home. Um, I'm a fertility scientist who clearly, it's an industry where they can't just stop the industry because we have
Yeah.
patients who's got cycles. Things can't just stop in our body physiologically. But I've got my own three young kids to care about at that time. And
Mm.
I remember just like you said, Jay, I work for a business that builds family, but yet my family wasn't as their priority at that time because it's all business as usual. And
All right.
so I didn't even have a second thought and I just gave in my resignation. I
Yeah.
left my job for 18 years. I said, that's it. This is clearly, if my family is not on top of your mind while you're a business that builds family, how could I possibly think of going to work, building someone else's family while leaving my family behind?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
that's a it's hard, and it's leaving something that you've always known. But it's that point, right? It is that moment. Like this is what you have created with the fertility and everything like that. And when you've come to it, it's like, what about my family? What about my kids?
yep, yep. And I think a lot of people probably, just like you and I, have had that light bulb moment around that time.
Yeah.
And I obviously everyone goes through it differently. I know for me, it hit me quite hard. Not when I started my e-commerce business, but a couple years later. So you have that. There's a lot of people that had a real life-changing thought when COVID hit, but it's the 2 years after COVID, I think that realization things are never going back to normality. That's
Right.
a second shift because I had a moment in that period of my life where I realize I've built a successful business, but I'm still not sure if that's what I wanted to do
Mm.
because it all just happened so quickly. It feels like a blur. I was always on the run, learning as I go how to build this business, homeschooling by the day, working as a business owner at night. And so you never stop to think. And I think when everything reopened, that's when everyone starts to put a bit more perspective in your life and go, hang on a second, is this what I really want? And I think we all had that.
Yep, absolutely. Like my daughter was born 1 month after COVID hit the very first time. And, that was actually probably one of my very darkest moments. I was isolated,
Yeah.
right?
And
There was
it
there
is
was
hard
nowhere.
enough being a mum,
Yeah.
with a newborn, let alone being shut off from all your supports.
Yeah. There was no support. Like,
Mm.
Apart from FaceTime, like mum lives in New Zealand, and I'm here in Australia. Her flights got cancelled. They were
Yep.
already booked, ready to come over not long after she was born, and all of that disappeared. My mum didn't meet my daughter until she was 2 years old.
Yep, yep,
2 years old.
yep, and that's a big chunk of their lives,
Yeah,
really, because you're right. I mean, my son was born in 2018, but he was only a toddler, a 2-year-old toddler, not even.
yeah,
And similarly, like you, we don't have family here. My husband's family is, spread across, and mine's overseas. So we've got no immediate family. It's just the five of us
yeah,
within our own bubble. And
yeah.
that's all we do. And I think, during that time, we got to spend so much time with our children too, that
Mm,
you really do recognize what is important. If everything else falls apart, what do you want at the end of the day that is with you?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. I think it woke a lot of people up. And it's like, if I can work from home from COVID and be there with my kids, why do I have to go back to an office job?
Yep, especially if it's a job that doesn't require you to be in the office. So,
Yeah,
for example, as a clinician, I do understand I've got to be there. I
yeah,
do understand. So there are certain jobs that require to, but for the most
correct.
part, you can work from anywhere in the
Yeah,
world. And I think it comes back down to having that trust, whether you're working for someone else or you're building your own business and you've got a team of people, it's
yeah,
building that trust, that relationship, and having that integrity as a person to do the job that you care most about. Because at the end of the day, whether it be you're a dishwasher or you're an engineer, you want
yeah.
to be able to do the job well. And
That's
that's
right.
what I always also teaches my kids. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do it with the best ability that you have, you always come out fulfilled, even
Yeah,
if it's the simplest one ever.
that's right. Yeah. So you describe yourself as a strategist first and designer second. So I actually love that distinction. So what does that actually mean when someone comes to you wanting a website?
Okay, so a website, to most of us who don't really know what it does, you just look at it like a browser,
Mm,
right? You go on it, you get to see what they put on the page, you click here, you click there. I like to describe what a website truly is. It's like the front door of your house.
yeah.
Okay? If you're a person that loves inviting people over, you love to make them feel homely, they're your friends, you like to build relationship, what does your front door look like? Will you have a doormat that says welcome? Will you have a door that is clean for the most part if you've got a glass door, or would it be filthy? So you look at your own website as the front door to your business.
Mm,
It's not just for you to put pretty pictures, because guess what? Once you open the front door, the person has to come inside. So if
exactly.
you've just got a beautiful front door, you're asking them to come in. But if you've got nothing else on the back end of that, what are you asking them to come in for? And that's how I sort of put it in a layman terms to most of my clients. Because for the most part, I think, as a small business owner, as a founder led, unless you've had the experience of years in it, you don't really know what it is.
That's
You
right.
don't really know what a website does. You don't really understand how a website performs apart from what you can see visually.
Mm,
So a lot of website designers are designers by trade. They can design beautiful things, but they may not necessarily understand the strategy behind your customer journey
mm,
or your UX behind it. So when I built a website to my clients, I always say I don't look at building it pretty first, because when you have a pretty website, that's just handing out a pretty brochure. But
that's
what do
right.
you want a brochure to do? Do you want a brochure so that they could either stick it on the fridge, that they know who to call if they need this specific service? And
That's
that's
right.
what your website is to do. So, coming from a founder perspective myself, I know exactly what a website needs to carry out apart from looking pretty. And which is why I've always preached myself as a website strategist first, a
Mm,
designer second. Because I also know for the most part, people go to a website designer because they've got the skills in designing.
Yes.
While designing skills are great, sometimes depending on your business perspective, that's not what you want.
Yeah.
I've had a client before that came to me. She's paid a website designer, $3,000 to build a really beautiful website, and they've done a beautiful job. However, she's a brand new founder-led business who decided that they want to do gift boxing to new mums and mums who are in their first year of motherhood.
Yeah.
And so she's got this fancy website, but she's a brand new business. And so those facilities are not really necessarily for her
Yeah.
at the time that she's starting up her business. And she felt like if I only had a cheaper website, but I put my money into building the back end of the website, would that have been better? And of course, she didn't know at the time. She thought she needed all the bells and whistles. And I'm a very honest and straightforward person. When I do a discovery call with my clients, I never try and sell my own services because that's not who I am. What I
Yeah.
sell and what I tell you is what you need to hear, is mapping out where you are in your business. What are some of the non-negotiable that you have to have? So that's your basic foundation. And of course, the way I look at it is where would you like to take your business in the next 3 years? If you've got a very solid focused goal, then I'll be able to tell you this is what you need that is non negotiable, and this is what you want to consider in actioning in that first 3 years to ensure by the time you hit your third year goal, you can then scale up because once you need scaling, it's a completely different paradigm shift again.
That's right.
So this allows the founders who jump on one of those discovery call with me to map out exactly and to understand a little bigger picture than what they currently are. Because
Mm.
while it's all great, we all say, let's just start. Do not wait till you have a perfect moment. Starting is great, but it always helps if you've got just a little bit more vision so that when you can work towards that vision, you've got it all mapped out step by step with no deviation. And that's what brings on a successful business, in my point of view.
Yeah. And I wholeheartedly agree with you on that because yeah, and it goes along with the same of a lot of things, like thinking social media. If your content's not grabbing them, but you've got the most prettiest, polished, beautiful Instagram grid or anything like that, it's not a conversion, it's just for looks. And it's the same with the website. If there's no back end structure, what what goals, it's like you say, what goals are you actually trying to achieve? Like just because you build a website doesn't mean that people are going to instantly be flocked to it.
Yes. And the other thing, too, I think people have to understand when you can actually understand what a website is, and if you can have some sort of idea to learn the basic knowledge as a founder, because most founder, to be fair, most founder will have a beautiful website, but they never go back in it
Yeah.
because their job is to build their business. And I totally understand. But as a founder, one of the things that I always teach my client is that you need to at least understand how to navigate your website on the back end. Because
Mm.
you don't want to be relying on a service or a consultant every single time you want to make little changes. Especially with a service-based business, your offers change, your position change, your business change every 12 months, and it has to reflect you on your website. If
Right.
you don't want to learn it, sure, you can outsource it, but you need to outsource it so that when you get the job done for you, you agree with what it's done. You understand why what is done for you. So that you can understand that it matches it all. I think this is also
That's
a
right.
distinctive that this matching between the two. So a founder has got an idea of what they want, a person builds their website, but often not, you do not see a bridge that connects the two. And I think this
Correct.
is where that gap is.
Mm.
Founders find it really hard to understand things, and I'm not saying they've got to be skilled at it, but they should also understand and learn the basics of it so that when you get a service done, you get a job done, firstly, you're not taking a ride for it. You're
Yeah.
not always, because I also hear this many times. Founders who tend to come to me, they tend to have already had their website done by someone else.
Yeah.
And they come to me and they say things like, I have no idea why I never questioned this. And they don't because no one's actually told them to. You don't know what you don't know. So, what I like to do with my clients is an education alongside the service I provide. Because I believe wholeheartedly, if I've taught you the things that
Mm.
I see, you don't always need to come back to me. You
That's
do
right.
if you need to. But if you don't, this is your baby, this is your business. Now you have the full confidence in running your business with what you've got.
That's right. Yeah. And that is a big point of difference that you've actually seen that gap and built that bridge.
Yes, I have, and I think sometimes it can be a bit, I suppose, a disadvantage to me because I'm a person that loves to educate people, love to educate people just so that they understand for themselves. It's really for them whether they want to use it or not. But
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time doing that, and I never really put it as an offer
Yeah.
because I don't like to do that. I think knowledge is free to everyone, just like if you've got the time, you can go and Google all you want, and for the most part, you'll find the knowledge that you're looking for. But I'm here to actually sift it out for you, give it to you, and whether or not you take it, it's up to you. But
Yeah.
I feel my fulfillment by giving that to you.
Absolutely. So, Joanne, I want to thank you for like sharing your expertise and your story in all of this today. It's been really interesting. I've taken a lot away from it. And, I'd love for you to share with us, what is the vision for Mustard Seed Studio? And who would you absolutely love to work with? And how can the women that are watching today, how can they connect with you?
Okay, so Master Seat Studio, I know, as you always say, experts who comes out and say you've got to niche down on your industry.
Yeah,
Master Seat Studio supports founder-led businesses. Now, there's a wide range of whether it be service-based or product-based business. I just love working with founder-led. Any one of you who's building something and you're pouring your heart in, I'm the person that would love to work with you. And why do I not niche down to a specific industry? Is because I've got the skills to be able to actually help you no matter what industry you are in. A
yeah,
founder-led business, whether you're in a service-based or product-based, both come up from the same goal.
yeah.
We are all in there because we've got skin in the game. We're trying to build something that we're passionate about.
That's
So
good.
that's exactly who I love to work with. And obviously, if you are a founder led business and you would like to actually work with me, book in a discovery call with me. In our
Mm,
discovery call is a non-compulsory, must need that you need my service. But through our 30 minutes of discovery call, we will map together what it looks for you based
yeah.
on the goals that you've got to achieve and based on where you are standing. That way, you've got this information in front of you so that you've got clarity on knowing what you need to work on next.
I love that. I love that so much. And Joanne, thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. What I really love about your journey is that it's such a reminder that the experience we collect through our lives, no matter what we do, even if it takes and changes direction, our lives are never wasted. And you've taken over or nearly 20 years or 18 years, 2 decades, right, of analytical thinking, research, science, combining it with your experience building that e-commerce business, marketing other founder-led brands and your love of design, and created something that feels uniquely yours. And I really think that that is such an important reminder for the women that are watching, because changing direction does not always mean starting again. Sometimes it brings everything that you have learned into that next version of what you're building. So, Joanne, thank you for letting us get to know who the woman behind Mustard Seed Studio is and for sharing everything so openly. For everyone watching, please go and connect with Joanne if you're a founder-led business, because that is her game. and check out Mustard Seed Studio and support the incredible work that she's building. So thank you, Joanne, for joining us for Women Behind the Business. Is there any last words that you'd love to share with our audience before we go?
All I could say, no matter how hard it is, just remember why you're doing this, what you love most about this, and everything will work out at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Joanne. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here with your wisdom and sharing. So have the most beautiful day, and I'm sure we will cross paths again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me on here.
You're welcome.